Welcome to Running on Ice, the coolest community in freight. I'm your host, Mary O'Connell, bringing you the latest tech updates, warehouse news, and everything happening in the cold chain world. Not only is there the coolest show in freight, but there's also Running on Ice, a newsletter that could not be colder. You can subscribe to that on freightwaves.com/runningonIce. Today, we are joined by the one and only Lucas Shore, founder and CEO of Kestrel Insights. Welcome to the show, Lucas.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Mary. And I wanted to show you to start because I know you're a Lego fanatic. My mom got me this for Christmas.
Oh my gosh. That is so cool.
McLaren Formula One to break into here. It started a couple years ago when they all came out to Montana for Christmas and it was like negative 20 degrees. And Mom was like, what are we going to do inside? We got all those. So I will show you I'll send you a finished product, but I knew you'd like that one.
I cannot wait. I got the Lego succulents for Christmas, so I'm pretty excited about that. I've never done the cars though. They always seem kind of like intimidating for some reason.
Well, look at your castle. I mean, that's not intimidating.
But that was really fun though.
Yeah, I think you knock it out. But yeah, I'll let you know how it goes. But yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This is perfect timing. I've got a cold spell coming here in Montana, so I'll be running on ice. But looking forward to talking today.
I feel like a Montana cold has to be colder than like anyone else's cold, just because I already picture Montana being very cold. So when you say it's cold, that means it has to actually be cold.
It's definitely chilly. I don't know. I think people in the Midwest, I just think they don't brag about it, but I think they go through some spells for most people in the country. We definitely get cold, but I'm sure like a lot of other cold places, it gets chilly, but I like it. I don't mind it.
So today we were kind of jumping into some of the geofencing things. But before we get too far into that, let's get some background on you and why you started Kestrel Insights.
Yeah, definitely. I know we're kind of a funky little data niche here on the geofencing side. So we really kind of came on the coattails of a lot of the SaaS innovations in the space with the proliferation of the ELD, everything becoming so much more connected. The comfortability with technology and data in the space, it just created all these incredible SaaS solutions. And when there's this gold rush for software platforms, there's often this vacuum created behind them of where data products can kind of come in that really build on their ROI and continue to build on the value propositions they bring to their customers and all that. And so that's really what happened with us here. Location data tracking, all this incredible focus on that in the space created this ability for a data product like geofencing to build on location data, build on tracking, and just make it even more valuable for the end user. And I stole this from one of our customers, Richie Daigle over at Thai, but he has this great view of, a kind of standard tech stack for someone in the space today where there's hardware, software, and people. So you have your hardware, which feeds your software, which then gives the people at the end the insights and the data to make the decisions they need. And everything's only as strong as its weakest link. So we have no effect on the hardware, but we can really make the software more powerful and give the people at the end even better data. So that's where we see where we fit, is really just this goal of reducing risk via visibility and kind of where we saw opportunity to fill a gap in the space.
I like that. You guys are just the kind of the answer that nobody knew that they needed answered, but once they figured out that they needed that answer, you're like, surprise, we already exist. Here we are.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to put it, because a lot of our genesis was around a lot of education of, hey, this is just what people thought geofencing was. This is just what they thought their options were. And so, you think these are the four walls around you, then you realize, oh my gosh, there's actually a way I can automate this. There's a way I can do this more accurately. So that's really what we do, is it's our data in your tools. And a lot of people think, oh, you're trying to switch me up on an ELD or something. I'm like, no. I don't want you to move. I don't want you to do anything different. I want to take things off of your plate. If I'm bringing another task to you, I've done something wrong. So that's kind of where we fit. And it's been a great journey.
I like that. But like you mentioned, the thing that you guys are known for is that automated geofencing. Can you kind of break that down for those of us who aren't necessarily geofencing pros, and kind of walk us through some of the most common applications in the cold chain space that you guys are using?
Yeah, definitely. So before we kind of dive into cold chain, geofences, just for themselves, for any application, they basically provide three simple three simple timestamps: arrival, departure, and then time spent within a given geofence. And so what we really do, what this process looked like before us was on any kind of telematics visibility, anywhere geofences lived, you would go through the same process. You type in an address, and then you have the choice of either doing a circular geofence, which is just a circle, or you can hand draw a polygon for that given location. Circles have their own issues just because of the quality of the data they're spitting out. Typically, those timestamps are off and can provide either inaccurate or even missed data entirely. So polygons are great, but it's a very, very manual process. You're literally hand drawing one at a time. And so we brought a solution to the space where you simply type in an address, and then that polygon gets matched with the location that you need. So that's where we kind of live. For what we focus on are really any node of the supply chain. So warehouses, distribution centers, fuel stations, toll roads, anything people want to know, those three timestamps are kind of where we live. So for cold chain, the first thing that kind of comes to mind for a lot of people for cold chain is waste management, loss prevention, especially from spoilage. The very unique difference, cold chain is cold. That's like obviously a very, very important part and what a major focus is. And so with our geofences, teams are getting really much more accurate and timely updates between origin and destination, at origin and destination, just when trucks have truly left or arrived at these different areas. You're getting much more accurate data to make important business decisions on and see what's actually happening out there. And I saw an interesting post on LinkedIn today from, shout out to my buddy Jeff Booth over at OpenDoc, and he said, look, and these are these buzzwords I hate, and one of them I think was accuracy. On there, like, okay, what is truly getting more accurate? And so what I think an interesting point that I saw the other day from the National Institute of Health was they published an article focused on the actual economic impact of temperature control during food transportation. And one of the interesting points that really stood out to me was they said the quality of perishable food products depends largely on accurate transport and, of course, the maintenance of temperature. We have nothing to do with the temperature, but we can really give teams insight to that accuracy of transport. And I think that's when I say accurate data, it's that insight to what's actually happening in this transportation process, what's going on. So I know, again, software, hardware people, me as people on the end can make the right decisions, keep things moving, and deliver a quality product. So that's what we see really in the kind of the cold chain space.
I kind of like that. It's because that part that you brought up of the waste specifically that's usually monitored in the cold chain is so important, because I think I read the other day that like 30% of all food in the supply chain or food like that is put through the supply chain is lost because of improper shipping or the inability to like maintain temperature control. So like basically before it even gets to the grocery store, like 30% of the possible food that could be consumed is already like wasted because of something throughout the supply chain. So I think that, anything that anyone can do to reduce that number is only going to help improve, food scarcity and other things like that are very real problems facing, people throughout the United States. So I really like that you guys kind of bring some of the answers to that solution, because it's not great.
Oh man, and I do not envy the people who run businesses moving freight in that space, because I mean just managing temperature, even if it's all the way to frozen, it's so difficult. I mean, you see it on anytime someone brings a product to the stage on Shark Tank, if it's movement of cold goods and services, oh man, they're always like, this is tough, it's hard, and so because some people ask, well, what is truly the impact of that accuracy of the geofence? Like, does it really matter that much? I mean, it does. I mean, making sure those steps just follow in sync has a major butterfly effect downstream, and the accuracy is really, really important. So yeah, it's a great space. A lot of people doing some great work.
I personally am very excited for the future of cold chain, because, the whole transportation world kind of got a quick little facelift, and everybody stopped running supply chains, or everyone should stop running their supply chains on Excel. And, we kind of had all this technology come very quickly. But that also means that the cold chain world had that technology come very quickly. And people have been able to make leaps and bounds and strides. And I really think the next 5-10 years, we're going to see some really cool advancements come. And I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. Um, but jumping back into the geofencing world, so right now you kind of alluded to it a little bit. There's those, there's like the circular geofences, and then like you can draw a shape around things. But I guess what is kind of the main difference between this kind of automated geofencing that you guys have versus like, the traditional geofencing that when someone says like, oh yeah, as soon as an ELD comes within X amount of range of this building, we'll know about it. So kind of what is that, what kind of added benefit does that automation come or have?
Well, I think and I got no problem telling customers. Sometimes people get on the phone, they explain what they're doing. I'm like, hey, you don't need us, or we're not the right solution for that. So what we're really trying to do is build, like, just maximize SaaS tool impact and ROI for what these teams are investing. If they're investing in their telematics, or visibility, what is your use case, and how can either more accurate or more automated geofencing just help out your business use case? And so from a circular perspective, it's great for mass quantities of locations because you can dump hundreds, thousands of addresses into some of these systems, and it'll geocode them, which basically geocoding means take an address, convert it to a single point on a map. So basically take address, put it to a lat long, and then just draw a circle around that. So it's great for mass quantities. It depends on what you're actually doing with those geofences, because if they're in dense areas, if you have a lot of businesses next door, to make that circle large enough to cover everything you need, you're inherently going to grab roads and neighboring businesses and things like that. So a lot of our customers who have either in dense areas or are they passing roads and highways, that geofence, if it's a circle, will create inaccurate timestamps. Like if a truck's driving down the highway next to the building, you'll get a ping that, okay, it arrived, but then it all of a sudden left. Did it actually go there? Like what actually happened? So truly just understanding when things got to site, that's where the circles can create a lot of issues. So great for automation, poor for accuracy. So we've had customers come to us for maybe oil fields in the middle of Texas where there's nothing for miles. So set your geofence to 2 mile radius and your data is going to be probably good enough for what you're doing. So it really depends on the use case. That's where circles start to break down. For polygons, so very, very accurate. So a polygon, multi-sided shape, you can have it fit the exact sidewalk around an entire DC or whatever you're doing. The problem is you literally have to go one at a time and zoom in on the map, and you're clicking and dropping these pins and actually creating that shape. So one of our first customers, a large asset-based carrier, they had hundreds of thousands of these, and they're like, okay, we'll get a team of interns, they'll crank through these. And they were, I think, 3 or 4 months into it, and they had gotten through 60 or 70% of what they needed, and the interns were leaving. They hadn't even started maintaining and going back and checking the first ones. So just drawing these is such a burden where it's a horrible misuse of resources, and 2, it's a real delay to market. Like that's 7 months that this team didn't have accurate geofences out there, collecting data, providing accurate feedback. So not only is it just the data quality, but it's just time to market and making sure you're operating every day to your highest capacity. So for automation, again, our data and your tools are not looking to move anyone around. They basically continue going through the exact same processes they are. So let's say we've got a customer on Motive, great telematics partner of ours. They continue to go through, upload locations, do everything they're doing, but then they're done. They go to sleep at night. Our system pulls the addresses, matches them with the polygon geofences in our system, puts them right back in their system. So they didn't have to do a single thing. They didn't have to draw anything. It basically was the same process as uploading for circles, but they got those polygons. So I really encourage teams to just reach out and tell us what kind of use case you got going on. Well, I'll have no problem explaining how we do it, what we do, how and if we can help you, and highlight similar use cases and stuff like that. But that's typically the differences we see between circular and between polygon geofences.
It's kind of going on further down those use cases. What are some of those success stories? What kind of operational efficiency have some of your customers seen as a result of, obviously not having to sit there for 7 months hand drawing locations? Because as someone who doesn't mind an occasional tedious task, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's funny you say don't mind a tedious task. There's definitely a time and place for all of that. And it's funny, right now at our place, we're putting up a garage. And I look out there sometimes and there's some guys just, cutting boards, hammering nails. I'm like, oh man, I'd love to do that just for a day. But you're like, okay, if I needed to do that for an entire apartment complex, that's a big difference. We need some automation here in the construction. So, in terms of some of these use cases we've seen, we've got some great customers with really unique and relatable use cases. We have people all over the world, all over the country using these geofences for such a cool array that I love talking to them every day. In the cold chain space, Tive is a great customer of ours. They, with a lot of customers in cold chain, and again, we kind of come back to that hardware, software, people connection. Tive, great hardware and software, and our geofences just can continue to build on the ROI for their software and their customers, giving the people at the end of the line kind of the best data possible. So Tive specifically is a big user of our airport and seaport data sets. So geofences for airports and seaports around the world. Again, and what they saw was really, okay, these are not high risk zones, but typical areas where, there's a change in mode of transportation. So it just adds another element, adds another variable to the system. So making sure when freight is in these areas, they can really see and deliver insights to their customers of what's exactly going on. So that's been a great project with them. We've also had customers on Project 44, Project 44 is a great kind of report on geofencing accuracy, where they look at arrival times, departure, and stuff like that. And for some of these geofences that this team had drawn, they were having real low geofence accuracy. And we saw an 80 to 85% increase in geofence accuracy once integrating with us. Because again, they didn't have to look at it, they didn't have to think about it. They just continued to get it at locations in there. And we just tie in our database for them. Because what customers are starting to realize is, yes, they might have, let's say a customer needs 100 Home Depots. They might not even realize that the next customer that comes to them is going to need Walmart's or something else, where our database is kind of a central hub for anyone who needs it. So we've already done so many of these locations and worked in so many of these areas that you kind of tap into kind of a central hub here, and you get a real good network effect of, hey, I didn't even know I needed those locations, but Kestrel's already got them and they've already maintaining them and using them in these other areas. So that's really where we see a lot of impact for our customers, is the accuracy, and then also kind of just tapping into this central database for them to leverage.
I kind of like that you have the you take all of that hard part out of, you're gonna get that accuracy of those polygons, but you're also not gonna have to sit there and spend a year or two sitting there mapping them out, because honestly that sounds horrible in and of itself. But the you also, you kind of are like, getting that data that you need, but honestly just not having to put in a lot of the work, because also, while the polygons are great, I feel like the circle geofences, like you said, it's going to generate a lot more exceptions. Like like you mentioned, you have like the truck that drives through and, oh, it's checked in, but did it really? And so then that takes out the automation that's supposed to come from geofencing, because you're like, well, how did it check in twice or three times or whatever? Then you have to go and kind of monitor it and see, how accurate it is, and then you lose a lot of that accuracy. So I think that I think it's kind of, I don't know. I like that solution that you guys have of that. Just show up. Don't worry. We'll take care of it.
No, definitely. And you touched on a really good point there of, do they want to draw these for 2 years or whatever it is? And one of the biggest things we tell our customers is, we love this. I mean, this is like why we started the company. We're like, we love GIS data. We love mapping. We love the concept of it. That's why we were so drawn to it. And we tell our customers, why did you start your companies? Why do you work at your companies? What is the mission statement for your companies? No one has ever responded with geofencing. We're a geofencing company. We're a geofencing database, which I get. And that's what I want to hear them say, because that's what we are. That's what we do. Like, the geofences play such an important part for all of our customers. That's why they're coming to us, and they feed the geofences, and the data they spit out feeds so many other features and products within their platform. So it's obviously important, but it's not like, okay, I want a team dedicated internally to doing this. It's like, let's integrate with Kestrel. Let's get off and run. Let's get back to our core competency and what we do as a platform. And this might be a good time to talk about it. Let me know if you get another question, but kind of the difference between our software customers and kind of some of our direct end users. And I can elaborate on how people integrate with us and how they get data if now's a good time.
I think that's something you brought up, something that's really important of, it's something that we've talked about on another show, Truck Call, is that, look at your business model, because we've talked about it in like that an age-old debate of do you buy or build your own technology? Well, look at your core competencies. What is it that you're doing as a business? Are you a technology provider, or are you something else that because if you're not a technology provider, it doesn't necessarily make sense to build your own thing. So like you said here, it doesn't make sense for someone that makes really good brownies and is just working on making sure that their brownies and cookies and baked goods are getting to where they need to be. Why would you spend all of your time and resources doing this when in reality it's not actually creating any value or helping you kind of grow revenue within your organization, especially if there's a service out there that you can just hire to do it for you, and you can get back to, coming up with the next coolest pastry.
No, you're spot on. You're spot on. I got a good buddy here in town who he owns a restaurant and makes great food, great dishes, customer service, all that's good. Beef is an input to a lot of dishes, but he's like, I don't want to raise cattle. I don't want to be a cattle rancher, but I need beef. So like, it's like, yes, I could go off and probably start a ranching operation, but it's like, well, that's not my core competency. I love restaurants. I love customer service. I love, that whole aspect. So that's probably one of the oddest, most Montana relatable analogies anyone's ever used on your show, but it's very real for exactly what we do.
But I mean, it's true across all businesses, because the second you start focusing on those things that aren't necessarily core to your business, everything else is going to suffer. Like if he became a cattle rancher instead of a restaurateur, then, suddenly there wouldn't be as much time for him to devote to the recipes and the customer service and everything like that. Everything else starts to suffer. So that's why just stick with what you're good at and, hire experts for a reason. Just like, you can build a house, but you would still probably hire professional carpenters to build you a house because it's their job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I could probably go out there, spend a year doing it, and then, but what would happen to my company? Like, exactly. You got to give and take until someone invents that time machine where you can jump in it and put everything else on pause. But yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we are running out of time, but there's one question that everyone that comes on the show has to answer. And it might be the hardest question you get today. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Is cereal considered a soup?
Is cereal considered a soup? Oh, that's interesting. I am going to go. Oh, I can already see my process and fallacy of my argument here. I'm going to say no, but because for me, I think I see soup as, this is actually funny for this conversation, as a temperature thing. And I know there's cold soups like gazpacho and stuff. I hate those. I don't like cold soups. I don't consider those soups. I don't know what I would call them, but I'm going with no.
I like it. As someone that also doesn't see cereal as soup, every time somebody says no, it's a win for me, because it's just not. It's not. They're fundamentally different aisles of the grocery store.
Yeah. This is very true. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Now I'm gonna think about that all day though. My wife's a nutritionist, so I'm gonna figure out with her later when she gets back too. What'd you do all day, Lucas? Let me tell you.
So if someone wants to take on your hot soup opinion, or if they have their own questions about geofencing, where can they find you outside the show?
Yeah, absolutely. Find us on our website, KestrelInsights.com. I'm very responsive on LinkedIn as well. And I know we dove into a lot of like the SaaS integrations. We have flip of the switch, turnkey integrations with tons of telematics and visibility where there is no technical lift at all. So make sure to reach out for us on those and we'll get you going.
You can catch other episodes of Running on Ice right here on YouTube or anywhere else you get your podcasts like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Need more Running on Ice news? No sweat. Subscribe to the newsletter on FreightWaves.com/runningonIce. See you on the internet.